Okay, so you're Rob Petrie. Right off the gate, I'm getting it wrong. Do you want to tell me a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. So I am the CEO and co-founder of SETGO Partners. We are a 17-person Salesforce consulting group founded in September of 2020. I have spent my entire professional career working with Salesforce. I was an accidental admin right out of college and then spent 6 years doing in-house work for private equity owned software companies or companies that became private equity owned software companies, and then got into consulting about 6 years ago and then started the business 3 years ago. So I lead the day-to-day kind of operations of SETGO Partners. I manage our sales team. I'm an individual seller as well, and then have some executive responsibilities for HR, admin, people management, things of that nature.
Out of all those responsibilities you have, what are the things that you find the most boring or the most hair-pulling parts of the business?
All the paperwork. It's just a lot that I'm a first-time business owner. I've never done this before. So there's a lot of things, the forms you have to fill out. We're a completely remote company that employs people, I believe, now in 8 different states. All of the rules and regulations and forms that go around taxes, unemployment stuff, running a retirement program for our employees, benefits, all of that stuff I could totally do without.
And so you're currently doing all the paperwork at the moment. Like you haven't delegated parts of that. Is that my understanding?
In fairness to my business partner, we have started to transition some of that work over to him as well, my partner Tom. I was doing it for a long time. I share about half the responsibilities now.
You don't like doing paperwork. I don't think anybody does. You mentioned before you started out as an accidental admin, and it culminated with you starting your own business with your business partner in 2020. Can you talk a little bit about the journey from starting a business during 2020, which, as we all know, is not a fun year? Could you walk me through what that looked like? How did you grab your first client? Like, how did you grab your next 2 clients? How did that operate in the year 2020?
Specific to 2020, throughout my career, I've gotten so lucky with the companies that I've worked with, like the people I've worked with, the opportunities I've been given to kind of learn and take on new responsibilities. When I was considering starting the business with my partner in 2020, I worked for a consulting firm that did work for both Salesforce and Microsoft Dynamics, and I was in a selling role. So I had relationships with people at Salesforce, people I would consider friends, colleagues, peers, that we got along as people, and I think I knew the Salesforce platform well enough to sell it, but the resounding consistent message from all of them was, we're not going to walk our competition into a sales opportunity. So despite me having all these relationships, they never led to opportunities to close business when I was at that firm. So part of it was we felt I could go to those people and say, hey, we started our own firm, or did you mean what you said? Would you work with us? The other part of it was just I would always come to companies. I would try and make an impact. I'd be really happy, meet all the people, and eventually I would get bored that I wasn't in charge. So I would start to think about what I was going to do next. I'd get frustrated that leaders weren't giving me their jobs or responsibilities for their jobs. So it was never the fault of any of my employers. I was just always wanted to do my own thing, didn't know how. So I got to that 3-year mark at that firm. I have been talking about this with my partner for a while. We had these relationships. All that kind of was left was for us to take the leap. And we pulled the trigger in September of 2020, hoping that some of those people would start looping us into projects. And we found our first and second and third client within a week or 2, and it was off to the races from there. So we got out of survival mode really quick.
Really quickly.
Yeah.
So within the first week, you're finding your first, second, and third client, and they're under your belt. And in my head, I'm thinking through, okay, 3 clients in a week. It's you and your business partner. I'm thinking you must have been working longer than 8-hour days. I don't know if that's a fair assessment, or was it all under 8-hour days? I'm curious about how that went.
Yeah, it was so that time coincided with the birth of my first child, my son Charlie, who is now almost 3 years old, but he was 2 months old at the time. Days and times didn't really necessarily exist at that point. So longer days for sure, but broken up into chunks. I think some days it was 10, 12-hour days, but it wasn't necessarily like I was never going into an office sunrise to sunset. I could take the time I needed to help my wife out or be there and enjoy being with my new baby and things like that. So it didn't, and I was also so excited about it that it truly didn't feel like work. It was like, oh my gosh, I've always wanted to start a business. Now we're just doing it. So I didn't really count the hours. I'm sure there were some longer days, but I think the reason we were able to find clients so quickly is we will do anything we need. We will to get our first client, and that came through in our sales pitches. They were working with the owners. We were excited. We were hungry. And I made sure that kind of came through as we were pitching new projects.
Could you walk me through a little bit about how the pitching went? You're just starting out. You're saying we're the owners, we're excited, and we're hungry to grab business, to win your business. How did you think about pricing your work? In my mind, some people severely discount and grab a client, but some people say, I don't want to do that at all. I'm curious about where you landed on that spectrum.
So I had the benefit of my partner, Tom. He was a pre-sales engineer and basically scoped projects for a living for many years. We had a really good sense for what it took in terms of hours effort to get a project done and to scope a project correctly and say, this is what we are doing, this is what we aren't doing. And then my style of selling is just transparency and clear expectation setting. So we felt comfortable about the hours. In terms of the rate, I just never really discounted what we did. I never felt like we had to. I knew we were capable. I knew we were good. I knew we'd do right by our clients. So I had a feel from my previous job what the market rate was, and we stuck pretty close to what we felt was the average rate. And our rates have increased as our skill set has increased, but we're still right slightly above what we feel the average market rate is. And that's where we like to stay. Never felt a need to discount and never really had to.
Do you have any words of advice for people who are just in that process right now where they're worried a client might think that they're charging way too much for their expertise? Do you have any advice for these people?
Yeah, specific to like current clients starting to question the value of the product, or new clients trying to considering their options, questioning the rate being proposed.
Let's do both.
Two different things. Current clients questioning your rate, I think you have a bigger issue there. If you're getting to the point where your rate is being challenged relative to the value, it's probably more of a people and a product issue. What's being delivered isn't lining up with what was being proposed. There's certainly exceptions to that, like economic factors, budget cuts, things of that nature. People have to come back. My advice to people in that situation would to very bluntly ask your clients, is this a dollars and cents and a budget thing, or is it a quality of the product being delivered? Take a long, hard look in the mirror and see, are you delivering on what you said you were going to deliver on? Tough conversations for sure, and situational for sure. That's very general advice. For new clients, it's challenging because some people are just really good at negotiating and they go to bat for their companies and they put on their war hats, and as soon as you sign the deal, they're back to being normal, friendly, good partners. You got to consider a lot of factors. How busy are you? How busy is your team? How bad do you want the project? How good of a fit is the client socially for you and your team? And then make a call. When we negotiate, the one rule of thumb I was taught by my previous boss was make sure you do it last. So everything else has to be right. The product has to be right. The proposal has to be right. The timing, the people, and the negotiation should happen at the point when, if we get this where you need it to be, are you willing to sign today? So that would be my advice. Do that last, make sure everything else is a fit. I am also reading books on negotiation, or a book on negotiation that tells me everything I just said was wrong, but that's always worked for me.
What book is that?
Start with No. It was recommended to me by a friend. I am not a big reader, but I'm a couple of chapters in, and it basically is telling me lots of things I do are not recommended.
I'm interested in the topic of negotiation. One thing that you said stood out to me, which is some clients will put their war hats on and it'll be like they might be completely different people in that process, but then once the negotiation is over, they're back to what they were beforehand. Could
Yeah.
you elaborate a little bit more on that, or riff a little more on that, what you mean by that?
Some companies just have those CFOs, people who it's their jobs to do that, to come in and look at the dollars and cents of it. They may not even be the people you're building your relationship or your project plan with. They're just people who have to sign off on the deal, and it's their job to come in and beat you up on price. And sometimes all of those roles are one owner. Like, we work a lot in small business. So the CTO, the CFO, they're the same person. They're the president or the founder of the business. So I try very hard not to take it personally, but sometimes if it's dragged out too long, it can be an indicator of the type of client you're going to work with. If I believe somebody's just negotiating and they're going to take that hat off, I will have that conversation all day long. If that hat never comes off, then I got to start worrying about, are they going to question every step of our process? Are they going to question every invoice they get? And that's when I believe partnerships become detrimental, because there's no trust. So you kind of got to read the room, very situational depending on who you're working with, but those are the things that go through my mind.
In that process, what are some of the signals that are sent to you which lead you to indicate that these people will never take their hats off, or they are the type of people that will take their hats off and compartmentalize the wartime negotiator with the regular person that they are?
When people start questioning the necessity of steps of our process, that's when I get concerned, or start questioning the length of time we estimate things we do every day will take that they've never done before in their careers. If it's a question on our rate and if that rate will jive with what they want to pay, that's a very fair question to ask, conversation we can have. When they start saying, you say it's going to take this for data migration, I've done data migration before, it's going to take a half hour, it puts you in a position where you either have to go into a big long spiel about why they're wrong, or you just gotta have to nod and accept that's the type of client you're going to be working with. So is it a negotiation, or are you questioning our knowledge and our understanding of the process? And to be fair to some clients, it's not like people have poked holes in estimates before, but when somebody has a concern over an estimate, but they lead with, hey, can I talk to you more about this in our current environment? Because I think it's going to be a lot simpler than what you guys think. Absolutely. I will have that conversation all day. When they lead with, my cousin's a developer and he says data migration should be done in 30 minutes, that's more of an integrity type. They're questioning your integrity. And the way we bill, I tell our clients this, we bill hourly for everything we do. We don't fix bid projects. So if I think it's going to take 10 hours and it takes 4, we're not billing them for the difference. So we're not really negotiating. We're arguing about an estimate, but the truth will come out eventually. It's going to take me the same amount of time it's going to take another qualified partner. So you either think we're qualified to do it or you don't. And if you don't, it's not really a negotiation anymore. It's more of a disqualification exercise.
Now we're on the topic of like positioning, right? On one side, it's in light of the way we do business, we think that we might want to adjust the estimate because we have this tool that might cut down data migration by 15%. Totally fair. But when someone says, I did data migration 30 years ago, and that's not how I remember doing it, it actually should be 15 minutes and not 5 hours, then they question your integrity. And then that might introduce the question in your mind, is this a worthwhile client to engage with in the first place? So to that end, have you ever had to fire clients?
All the time. One of the best lessons I learned in the first year of owning the business was how to fire a client early, or we fire ourselves by just saying we're not qualified to do the project. We don't have the experience needed to get it done. We're not a good fit. We don't have the resources. We say no a lot, but sometimes, yes, we fire the clients. We just don't like the way they go through scoping, certain indicators of this is just going to be a nightmare for us. Because I tell this to a lot of people, sales don't really mean anything in our world for our business, sales are just an opportunity to make money. If a client gets 5 grand into a project that's supposed to be 100 grand and they're not happy, seeing value, trusting the process, and they cut the project, we don't get the 100 grand, even if the sale was worth that. So it's not worth us to start a project that we feel is going to fail. And sometimes there are indicators from clients or potential clients that we just don't think we're a good fit for. So there was a point where we were firing as many clients as we were taking on. It's that frequent.
Do you notice with clients that are further up market, so maybe like a mid-market or an enterprise client, that they're easier to deal with than a client that might be an SMB, like a smaller, medium-sized business? Do you find that like the deal size might impact the quality of interactions that you have with customers, or not really?
Sometimes, not really. I would actually say more common is the opposite. We do a lot of work in small business and we work with some wonderful, amazing clients and human beings. And sometimes when you're talking to the people who can make decisions right away for the business, the project can flow smoother, to no fault of anyone at an enterprise or mid-market clients, to no fault of their own. And we do have them. It just sometimes things need to be taken up the chain, decisions take longer to make, things of that nature. So the projects are slower moving. But when you're talking to the owner of a business who can say, yes, dude, this is what I want, et cetera, so forth, we can just move so much faster.
I was trying to think. So I've heard this saying, and I've seen it with other people that have run their own businesses, that clients that, let's say the scale of the services you charge is like 0 to 10K. And clients that are paying $50 on that spectrum are the ones that will throw the most amount of red flags, or they'll throw the most amount of concerns in the process, the way you're selling. They'll nitpick your invoice, they'll nitpick your estimates, versus the clients that might be paying 10K a month are just send me the invoice. I don't have any issues. And so I think that's the thread of idea I was trying to go with, not necessarily more along the lines of if they're an SMB or an enterprise. I was just trying to think through how to vocalize that.
Got it. No, I know what you're saying. It takes the same amount of time to close a 10K deal as it does to close a 100K deal. And sometimes the 10K deal, they're looking through a magnifying glass at everything you're doing. Has not really been our experience. We have those tough, nitpicky clients in every segment we do. We also have clients that extend complete trust and faith to us. There are projects that we are doing for small businesses that if I got that price tag in our first year of doing business, I would also sweat every single invoice. And I try not to forget that. And I'm so confident in the integrity of what our people do that I don't worry about invoices being looked under a magnifying glass, because we can justify every single invoice we do, and our people don't bill egregiously, and they're taught and coached not to, and we hire people who aren't going to. I don't mind when people poke into it to an extent. If it becomes counterproductive or where our integrity is being questioned, then we have a decision to make. But the examples of that, even in small business, are few and far between.
You mentioned that you only scope hourly and not fixed price. I'm interested in seeing why you decided to only scope hourly and not look at fixed price.
I love talking about this. So that's a great question. It's a hotly debated thing in consulting. With a fixed bid project, there's a winner and a loser, in my opinion. You have a rate, you want to get paid for your services. You have a number of hours that you think it's going to take to deliver the product. You add hours to give yourself some cushion and try and be the winner. But at the end of the day, unless you got that estimate exactly right, your client either overpaid or underpaid for the services being provided. If you're good at it and you can sell on value and you can estimate accordingly, fixed bidding projects is an incredible way to hockey stick growth a consulting firm. If you are a winner in 9 out of every 10 projects, your margins are higher, your team can work on other projects, and you're getting paid a higher average rate. For me as a business owner, one thing I really enjoy doing that I don't think people realize about me that I enjoy doing, I'm an accountant by trade. That's what I started out doing. I love looking at the data and the finances of our business. Cash flow projections for an hourly time and materials business is the easiest thing in the world. Like we can predict our bank account balance down to the $1,000 3-4 months out. We know exactly what we need to do to hit it. Being a first-time business owner, employing people I consider friends, having the responsibility of 17 people working for us, I'm just not at a point where I'm willing to take the risk of being the loser on a fixed bid project when I can sell time and material deals and know that as long as we're doing the work and we're within the scope and the parameters, we're going to get paid for the work we're doing. So it's easier. There's comfortability in that. We've never had a cash flow issue. We're not even close. So that makes me feel really good and confident when I get in front of my team and talk about the financial health of the business. But also it's a trust thing. Like it's good. Like I said before, it's going to take us the same amount of time, energy, and effort to solve the problem as the next partner who's qualified to do it. So it comes down to trust. Do we know what we're doing? Are we solving the problem in an efficient way? And if so, as long as you feel that's correct, then we'll bill you what it takes in hours. And sometimes there's going to be a winner and it's going to be our client. We estimated 100 grand to do a project, took us 70 grand to do it. There's a winner there. But I think we're a winner there too, because then we can tell the story, and it happens all the time. That's my argument for it. I have friends who own consulting businesses that think I'm crazy, but we're just chugging along, slow and steady growth. And I think that's a huge reason why.
This is like a hotly contested topic to your point in consulting. I was doing hourly, and then I've recently switched over to fixed price billing. And so I'm exploring how that's worked, and it's worked nicely. It's just, to your point, you've got to be great at scoping, because if not, then you'll eat the cost significantly. And it might have been more beneficial to do an hourly pricing, like in retrospect. So I see both sides.
I do too. And we are really good at scoping. I think it's one of the things we do the best, not just like figuring out what it's going to take. We have a lot of experience there, but then articulating to our clients, these are the risk factors. This is exactly what you're getting for this scope. This is what you're not getting. We try to lead with transparency there. And I think that helps. If we were not as good of it, I think I would go to a more fixed bid model, but we're talking about it and thinking about it. Some clients ask for it. We've done it once or twice before. The other side of that coin is not without its merits and its good points. I'm just there's still a part of me that's, can you do this? Can you run a business of this size? And I take so much comfort in our financial reporting and data. Every time I see it, I feel good about the decisions we make. So breaking up with that and introducing an element of, did we get this project right on every single fixed bid project? I'm just not quite ready as a first-time CEO to introduce that element of risk to the business. Is this interesting at all?
I love this.
Okay. All right, cool. I like talking about it, but I don't want to bore you or anyone else.
No, so I'm trying not to go down the weeds of fixed pricing versus hourly billing, or going down like the negotiation rabbit hole, because I could talk about negotiation like all day.
Sure.
I'm just trying to cover topics that are, that I have on my notes. But no, like we could talk about, for example, like one of the ways that I scope projects is understand what the prospect's need is, and then from there come up with 3 options that will help deliver the project based on their level of investment.
Sure.
So option 1 is X, option 2 is X times N, and then option 3 is X times Y or something like that. And those are the 3 things. And it's all based on the function of how valuable is this to them. So that's an option that I've been exploring with, and it's been good. But what I'm trying to get better at is reducing the amount of time it takes to get that document, that proposal out to the prospect. Yeah. So you'll spend lots of time thinking through what the situation appraisal is. What are you actually going to deliver at these 3 options, et cetera? What are the risks and assumptions that you're making? Yeah. And this takes a lot of time. And so I'm trying to figure out ways to reduce that time to get out something that I stand by to the prospect.
Sure. That it's all in documentation. And yeah, it's a question of how into the project do you want to get before you start charging? Because it's just more discovery and more scoping, more uncovering potential risks. So it's a challenge for sure. But firms that can do it right, somebody believes it's worth $10,000 to their business to solve this problem, and you're charging $10,000, that's a fit, whether it costs you internally 8 or 6 or 7. I think most growth minded business owners would say, I don't really care because I know it's a $10,000 problem to my business. I definitely see the fixed bid argument. The other challenge I've had with it from companies who have done it is the last 10% of the project. I've had firms tell me it gets into a disagreement over, are you done or not? Sometimes with our clients, they know they're on the clock. So there's a mutual desire to get to go live and to get the tool in their users' hands. And then we translate into a support agreement afterwards. But it's a, do you want to spend the last 10% arguing, or do you want to spend the last 10% going live? That could be a generalization, but that's something other firms have told me they struggle with the fixed bid model.
The last mile. What is a definition of done?
Yes, correct. And you don't want to argue with your clients at the most exciting time when you're going live. But on the flip side, we're, like I said, slow and steady. We're very slow and steady.
There's a guy I've been following. His name is Jonathan Stark, and he has a book which you might like the title of. It's called Hourly Billing is Nuts. And
I'd love to read that book.
and he talks about that and one of the merits of value-based pricing. And his discussion point around that last mile would be that you should anticipate that's going to happen.
Yeah.
That scope creep will occur. And so you bake that into your price and you call that out as a risk or something like that. And you can go back and forth on those risks. Now, of course, there will still be those scope creeps that still happen that you didn't account for. But I think that's like a way to try and help mitigate against that.
There's another element to this that is a challenge with the way we bill that I wish didn't exist, but we have a business analyst that works for us, and she made the comment, she's not new to consulting, but she's new to billing her time. And she made the comment several months into her role here that hourly billing penalizes our team for efficiency. If she thinks it's going to take 20 hours to do something and it takes her 10, she has to go find 10 more hours of work to bill to hit her hourly quotas that we give our people. And that I feel that for sure. And it's something where I've said, if you could solve that in our hourly model, I'm all for it, but I don't have a solution for that. It's a new thing for consultants. Like, you have to be in front of your computer billing for 32 hours a week. There are a lot of people who do really good work for their jobs and other types of positions in tech and all over the place, but they don't have to be in front of their computer for 32 hours. They work a 40-hour work week, but it's not necessarily hands to keyboard focused work. And I don't have a solution for that. That's a reality of working here.
Partners with less integrity will just lie.
Yeah, we won't do that.
We just
won't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we never will. And I've gotten better at setting that expectation in the interviewing process, that it's hard to be in front of a computer for 32 hours. So yeah, I get that.
It does penalize you for efficiency.
Yes.
Something that takes you could do in an hour that will really drive the value for the customer. Now you just only charge whatever your hourly rate is for that specific thing.
Yeah.
So totally agree there. You run a Salesforce consulting firm, and is it safe to presume that you do such great work for clients that they eventually want you to touch other facets of their business? We have HubSpot, or hey, we have SAP, or we have these other systems. Would you want to help us with that? Do you find that happening? And if so, what do you typically respond with? Do you take that on? Do you not take that on?
We do a lot of integration work here, and we're really good at it. So if the conversation is, we want to pull data from SAP, NetSuite, Sage 100, whatever, into Salesforce, we will have those conversations, pursue those projects all day long. We get asked to do implementation, standalone work for other CRMs, and the answer is always no. I'm about as bought into Salesforce as one can be. And I think it's really important that we stay in our lane. And I don't want to put my team in a position where they're forced to learn something they don't feel like they're an expert to work on. So we have shut those conversations down pretty quickly.
So you very much stick to, we're a Salesforce implementation partner. We'll do integrations all day, but if you ask us to do a standalone implementation of an SAP, we're just not going to touch that. That's not our bread and butter. We don't want to deal with that.
Correct.
Totally get it.
Yeah.
Totally get it. You're running the show, right? You're running the show over there. You mentioned that when you were a W-2 employee, you're like, I just want to be the person that's running the show. I want to be my own boss. And now that you're doing that, you now have to inspire and motivate others that work with or for you to achieve business goals that you and your partner have set out. So tactically, could you provide a little bit more context into how you actually do that? Like, how do you actually motivate and inspire a team to achieve X?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure it out and get better at it every day. We've grown so quickly that a year and a half ago, it still felt like me and my friends trying to figure out project by project, and suddenly we're a bigger business, and that comes with a certain amount of responsibility. I think there's elements of it I'm really good at. I think there's elements of it I'm really bad at. The thing I think I'm good at is I try very hard to lead with honesty, I try to lead with empathy, and I think I have a very healthy relationship with what this is for our people. For me, it's my life's work. So short of my family, it's the thing I'm most passionate about. I get most excited about. I'm also the owner. So there's a motivating factor to the day in and day out work we're doing and growing the business. There's a financial motivator, there's a experience motivator, all of that. For a lot of my people, it's just a job, and I want it to be an awesome job, but they have families, they have hobbies, they have other things they want to do with their time. And I'm cool with that. And so is my business partner. I think we don't think we're changing the world. I think we're just working hard and doing good work. So in that sense, I think that comes through in my leadership style. When we ask for people to go above and beyond, we try to make sure it's the exception, not the rule. And then I try to make sure I'm working the hardest because I set the bar. But I don't expect people to be up at midnight or 4 a.m. doing stuff because they have families and they got other stuff to do. It's just, I was never felt that was expected of me, and I don't feel like I should in turn expect that of my people. So that element of it, I think I do really well. I think people, especially nowadays, respond really well to that. They wanted to be trusted. They want to be treated like human beings. The things I don't do well, I'm a chain of consciousness thinker. I talk out loud. I realized very quickly that now that I'm the CEO, people listen to what I say. I'm not just Rob bitching about something or rambling or running my mouth. They actually hear what I have to say. And that's a challenge for me because sometimes when you're executing on an idea or you're building an idea or you're trying to do things for the business, it's not the right time to share with people because the idea is not fully baked yet. And I struggle with the idea that I feel like when I'm not telling people what I'm thinking, I'm lying. And so I get myself into tricky scenarios where I feel like I have to be transparent about things that I should just not say anything about, not because it's lying or untruthful. It's just not the right time to have people worry about that. So I've got myself into challenging spots there as a leader, and that's something I'm really bad at.
Do you have any specific examples that come to mind when you've gotten yourself into these tricky situations where you're thinking out loud, you say something on a call and people are like, oh my God, wait, what did Rob just say?
Not like doom and gloom stuff, but I'll have a conversation with someone about we're a little light here and we talked to this great candidate. We want to hire another business analyst and they have not gone through our process. We haven't even plugged it into the budget, but I'll get on a team call and be like, I'm really excited. We got this business analyst we really like. We want to hire. And our director of enablement is going, what? You want to what? We haven't. How are they going to onboard? How are they going to do this? My business partner is going, what are you talking about? We haven't done any of stuff like that. I think just little stuff. But then early on in the business, I think I was just too high and too low. So we would have a great profitable month. We'd hit all our billing metrics and we were the best, smartest people in the world running the most amazing consulting firm in the world. And then a project stalls and we don't hit our numbers. And suddenly it's, oh my gosh, we need to do this. We need to do things, our lights aren't going to be on. And that's just me being in the moment, being moody. But you can't really do that when people are looking to you to lead and be the steady hand. So my business partner is so much more steady and consistent than I am. I've got a little bit better at it, but I ride the wave. I'm high, I'm low, I'm high, I'm low. I just gotta take a breath, and it's okay.
I'm curious about your experience in finding great Salesforce talents. Like when you're looking to hire, you're like, survey the market, see who we can bring on. I'm curious about what your experiences is in sourcing and bringing on great talent.
Of the first 10 people that we hired, I knew 7 of them personally and considered many of them colleagues and friends. It's getting harder because I told my business partner I'm out of friends. I have asked everyone who I could think of to work here, and the ones that aren't here have shot me down multiple times. We try to hire for attitude and culture fit first. We are very confident that we can teach people some of the technical skills they may be missing. So we look for people fit first. Some of our best consultants, people our clients rave about, didn't know a whole lot about Salesforce when they came to work here. They were just really smart, really good people. So we've tried to keep that in mind. However, it is getting harder because, like I said, my personal network's kind of exhausted. We're needing more niche skill sets, and in our world, you can't replace experience, and we are needing more experience as our projects are getting more complex. So certainly becoming harder, trying to explore new avenues to recruit, but it's getting harder for sure.
You mentioned there, as the org is maturing, you're needing more niche skill sets and you can't replace experience. Do you place any value in certifications? So somebody, let's say they come in and they're like 10x certified. Is that something that is appealing to you, or do you not really look at that too much? I'm curious about what your perspective is on certifications as it pertains to an applicant that's going through the process.
I look at certifications as like a bonus to supplement the right person. But when we're looking for an experienced person, we care so much more about, have they been a consultant before? Have they billed their time before? And the conversations we have with them about what role are you actually playing on these projects. We'll ask very specific technical questions. Do you have experience with data migration? Do you have experience with flows, things like that? We care far more about that stuff than certifications. But if the right person has 10 certifications, that's amazing. We love that. But it's when you put your mind to it, you can acquire a lot of certifications for products you don't have a lot of experience with. And we're pretty aware to the false sense of experience that can create. We try to weed that out.
And does that look like just asking more pointed technical questions? Is that the filter mechanism that you employ?
That's where my delivery team, Tom, Kevin, who leads the team, Beverly, who does enablement, they're pretty good at sussing that stuff out. Like everyone, Diego. So I'll be like, I met this amazing person and they're great. Talk to them. And my team will be like,
no,
good person, not the right fit. And I'm like, darn it, back to the drawing board.
As a last thing, do you have anything that you want to plug that like anything that you want to shout out? I see you're wearing a specific jacket on you. Is there anything that you want to plug or anything you want to talk about in these last few moments that we have here?
I would just plug our team. You know, what I would say to people is if they've ever considered Salesforce before, but they haven't pulled the trigger, but they're interested in it. If they've used Salesforce, but they don't think they're getting what they should be getting out of it. If they've got a partner and they're not thrilled with it, I would plug having a conversation with us, because my goal in every conversation and my sales team's goal is to educate and to leave them better off than when they came to the conversation, even if we're not a fit for them. So I would say if anyone's listening, if they've got any interest in a new partner or in Salesforce in general, come to us. If you want to learn, if you want to ask questions, we'll shoot you straight. We're not going to lead you astray, and we'll do right by you. I would absolutely plug my team. It's in the name, SETGO, get set before you go. The whole premise was we're not going to kick off a project we don't know we can complete successfully. In that sense, we're trying to grow, we're excited to work, and we're looking for projects.
And where can people find you?
They can find us on SETGOPartners.com. They can find me on LinkedIn at Rob Petrie. They can reach out there, or they can shoot me an email.
Awesome. Awesome. Rob, I think this is a great conversation. Thank you for your time.
Thanks to you. I appreciate it.